VOWR800.
Hello and welcome to Going Strong. My guest this week is one of the best-known Newfoundlanders around, who has made an indelible stamp on our culture as a singer, songwriter, producer, actor, author, proud Petty Harbour boy, and passionate Newfoundlander. Alan Doyle, so good to see you and get caught up after these many years.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I'm grateful. It's nice to be in VOWR. God knows I've been listening to this station for as long as you can imagine, and growing up in Petty Harbour, I don't know. I feel like I don't think I was in a car until I was about 30 without hearing VOWR. It seemed like to be in every car, and it's a joy to be here in these hallowed halls here today.
Well, it's a joy to have you, and I'm looking forward to chatting about all the things you're up to these days and picking your brain a bit about the Newfoundland culture. But it makes sense to start with your latest project, an album you recently produced with Corey Tetford called Sonny Don't Go Away, honoring the songs of Ron Hynes. Great idea. Why was it important for you to do this album?
When Ron passed, I think the whole music community, and maybe the whole arts community, and maybe the whole province for that matter, all kind of thought, what a shame, first of all, and how everyone, I think, had the idea to do some kind of catalog celebration, some kind of way to honor Ron's contributions and to make sure that catalog stays with us for a long time. And I think everyone wanted to do that, but how to do it and when to do it. And then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, this notion that I think we all started to become really, really possible because everyone was here and everyone was looking for something to do. So, I talked to my manager, Louis, who runs Sonic Entertainment in Halifax. Louis from here. Everybody knows Louis from Thomas Trio from years ago. And I said, in the spirit of a pandemic project, I can't think of a better one than this. If we could figure out a way to make it doable. And so we got to work and we figured it out. And then we went down the road of asking people to participate, and the result is Sonny Don't Go Away, 20 Newfoundland acts doing 20 round songs.
Amazing. Yeah. I like the title, Sonny Don't Go Away. It's an obvious reference to maybe his most famous song. But is it also saying that you want to make sure that Ron Hynes stays firmly in our minds and musical repertoire here?
Yeah, the title kind of came quick and easy, that it should make reference to perhaps one of the songs that the greater, Canadian music audience or maybe even international music audience might recognize, but then also, like you say, this, sort of sad lament that Ron has gone at all, you know what I mean? And the whole, like you say, the function of the record really is two things. It's for us here, who are big Ron fans and loved Ron and his music, to celebrate it for ourselves, and then, but it's also, in a perfect world, it will open up the world to Ron's catalog and also to the, the other bands and stuff that are playing on the record that perhaps people haven't heard of yet or whatever. And I'm sure that Ron would love nothing more than, someone discovers Quote the Raven because they were on this record or whatever. And it's all part of it. It's a win-win-win.
Well, of course, man of 1,000 songs. And how in the world do you distill that down to 20, right?
The thing about the list of songs we did that strikes me all the time is what ones are not on this record. Some of my favorite Ron songs are not on this record, like No Kathleen and a few others. But it's just, the thing that really struck me was when I asked people to come in and bring a suggestion for what they wanted to play, if they didn't want me to give them one, they all came with favorites, and so few people came with the same favorite. It was amazing to me. There was a couple of overlaps, one or two out of 21 or 22 suggestions, and it was amazing to me how people came with songs that no one else came with, and I was like, that'll tell you the breadth and the width of the catalog and the various lenses you could look at Ron's writing through and still find meaning in it.
And the personal interpretations that everybody
and we have people on the record, from all different, traditional backgrounds in Newfoundland and Labrador. We have people from all over different parts of the province. We have people from different generations. We have people from different, musical genres, and still they found something that they were very passionate about in Ron's songs. That's amazing.
And it must have been an amazing experience to be so immersed then again in a really distilled time frame.
It's a deep dive.
You know,
it's a bit of a deep dive. Might have been too much Ron. Might have been a deep dive for me.
Is there such a thing? Yeah. But it must have also felt like a really big responsibility to try and encapsulate his musical legacy.
Yeah, it's
an album.
I sort of said by accident sometime in the last month or something, talking about it, re-recording Ron's songs in Newfoundland and Labrador is like rewriting the Bible or something, People are very, very personally invested in a lot of these pieces of music, and for a very good reason. Like in some cases, just because they're passionate about, a song they like. But in other cases, we're talking about, songs about the Ocean Ranger, and we're talking about songs, like that have a weighty subject matter for most Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And it's not the kind of thing you want to treat lightly, it's not, you don't want to take the fun out of it either, it's not the kind of thing that you go about very casually, I can tell you that.
And I guess there was a real sense of Ron in the room, even as you were recording. Was it challenging for the singers, yourself included, to lend your voices to the songs that are so identified by the sound of Ron's distinct voice?
No, I don't think so. I think people jumped at that. And again, that's another great sort of thing to say about somebody's songs, is that people are dying to sing them themselves. And, as a songwriter, I can tell you that nothing thrills you in the world more than having someone else put their voice on the words and melody that you've written. Like, that's a thrill, and I know Ron would have loved it, and everyone just brought their own passion to it, which was amazing. And myself and Corey really wanted to make sure that people felt comfortable doing stuff that they were passionate about. Now, in some cases, that meant me and Corey helped them right from the ground up and did a full arrangement of stuff. And in other cases, people came in with a fully developed idea that they felt great about. And if we liked it, we said, okay, let's do that. Run with it, and off we go, And so we didn't make any effort to try to make these 20 songs sound similar. There's some cases where there are similarities of the arrangement or this and, but it's kind of coincidental. We really wanted it to be as varied as possible, because that's the way, that's the way people interpret it, and that's the real authentic reaction to the song. So let it be that.
Well, as a prolific songwriter yourself, is there any way to sum up his legacy, his musical legacy to this province, his cultural legacy?
Yeah, it's vast and it's deeper than most people in the country are used to. I think that if people have heroes in, let's just say, Canada, they run deep for the whole country. I'm not sure there's many places have a regional superhero like we did in the arts, because like when I was a kid, the biggest show in my life on television didn't come from New York or from Los Angeles or from Toronto. It came from here, right? And the fellow who led the band in the wonderful Grand Band television show was Ron, And so we had these comedy legends, and then these rock stars like Glenn and Sandy and Boomer and all these superheroes, and they're led by the songs of this guy, And like, as a writer myself, and I didn't even know I was a songwriter then, or going to be an artist or a band guy or whatever. I think especially in the 80s, maybe, I don't know, because that's when I was a teenager, all the things that I loved to write that were famous, guys with big hair talking about cars in California or surfboards or Detroit cars or something, except for the Grand Band. And the Grand Band and Ron told me that it was not only like okay to be myself, it was essential to be myself, right? And that I should not only feel okay about writing songs about things that happened in my own backyard, I actually had to, and so that contribution, I think, is true for me. I think it's true for lots of other songwriters. I honestly think it's true for storytellers, and I think it's true for novelists and playwrights, and I think it's true for painters and dancers. And I think that if there's one, massive contribution that Ron made to the artistic life of Newfoundland and Labrador, is that he made it not only okay, but kind of essential that we be ourselves.
Because it's that authenticity that will resonate with the people who are listening and watching.
And you don't know that. Like, you don't know that when you're 13, right? You think you got to be Van Halen or something. Like, or, well, unless somebody tells you, unless a hero of yours comes up and tells you that he wants to hear what it's like growing up in Petty Harbour.
Yeah. Or someone leads the way.
Yeah.
Like Ron did, yeah. Well, let's listen to one of the songs. This is No Change in Me, sung by the Fortunate Ones. And as the song says, not everybody has the good fortune to the privilege of staying here to make a living. And I think that's something that Ron never took for granted.
No, because he came and went so often, right? Himself. And I think he, keenly aware of like this kind of pathos that Newfoundlanders have for leaving. You know, it's kind of like our national sport is we're professional leavers.
Leaving,
you know,
crying about it,
yeah,
coming
and
back.
then joys of coming back, and then being crooked that you did, and then feeling good because you went and bad and you came back, and everything. Like it's just like it's our national consumption. It's like, you know, and God help you if you leave and you like it. Jeez, I mean, you're like, you know, and like all that kind of stuff that really is unique to us. Like I don't know if anybody from Edmonton thinks about, you know, anybody who left Edmonton to go to Red Deer as much as we talk, you know, like it's, yeah. And so this song is just one of them where it encapsulates the whole feeling about feeling sorry you left. No choice but to leave.
That's right. The only thing constant is change. Well, first song we're going to hear is No Change in Me.
Shoot off a cannon down the middle of pond and attract no attention in downtown St. John's. This getting nowhere, it's getting to me, wondering where can you go to be all you can be.
No regular Joe wants to haul up and go and wind up homesick with no one you know, with just a smoke and a beer and the sports on TV, feeling sorry you left with no choice but to leave.
No change in the weather, no change in me. I don't want to leave, but you can't live for free. You can't eat the air, you can't drink the sea. No change in the weather, and no change in me. Shoot off a cannon from the top of Long's Hill, and a Gulliver's taxi might be all you'd kill. We were promised the sun and the moon and the stars. We got weathered old clapboard and solved rusted cars. So let me join in the leaving with all of the rest. From Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, West, and lay down on the sidewalk and kick off and die, watching people not looking as they hurry by. No change in the weather, no change in me. I don't want to leave, but you can't live for free. You can't eat the air, you can't drink the sea. No change in the weather, and no change in me. No change in me. I don't want to leave, but you can't live for free. No, down here, you can't live for free, and you can't eat the air, you can't drink the sea.
And that was No Change in Me by the Fortunate Ones. My guest today is Alan Doyle, who produced an album with Corey Tetford called Sonny Don't Go Away, and that's one of the tracks from there. Ron wrote what he knew, but he also wrote what we knew.
Yeah.
You know, what everybody else knew. And it was so infused with the history and geography of this place. Is that something else that makes his body of work so resonate so much? I mean,
yeah, I had this unique ability to sing with the voice of our grandparents or our children in the oddest way, didn't he? And he could tell a story about the city as well as the farming community or the fishing community, you know, even though he probably lived on Dockworth Street, you know, like, or whatever. And it's beyond my pay grade to figure out how he figured that out. Because trust me, I'd do it if I could. But I think for most people from around here, there's a very specific ability to tell stories that are from here and make them sound global, but also to take a lifetime and encapsulate it in 3 minutes. And to be unafraid as well to write about tiny little moments in time, whether it's a knock on a door, you know, and the whole song takes place from the time you hear a knock till when you answer it. It's not only a unique thing and a special thing for Newfoundland and Labrador storytelling, or Newfoundland and Labrador kind of recording a history and song. That's hard no matter where you're from. That's an extremely skilled thing. And I'm just written enough songs now to know how hard that is. Like, that is extremely difficult to be able to write with those kinds of specificities. And I mean, most of the fans that Ron has around the world are songwriting nerds, you know, ninjas, you know, who seek out people like Ron who have this very specific skill set. And yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why fellas like me, you know, we're joy, you know, it's great joy in deep diving into the Ron catalog.
well, I mean, Newfoundlanders have a fierce attachment for this place, you know, and that passion found its way into our music, art, writing, comedy, especially in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, there was an explosion of culture, you know, a real renaissance. And it was as if after 500 years, we fully came into our own. We always knew it was there, but to be able to express it, we came into our own as a cultural entity, you know?
Yeah, and over the course of my life, it's been, you know, I feel like I was born exactly at the right time. Because as soon as I opened my eyes fully, you know, when I was 10 or 11, say in the late 1970s or early 1980s, I had, you know, Ron and Mary and Andy and all those cultural icons to look at and listen to and to go like, oh, man, well, maybe I can be me, you know, and then, you know, that stuff plays out. And then, you know, when Great Big Sea started, you know, we had this opportunity sort of to represent Newfoundland and Labrador and probably on a stage that had never been done before, you know. And I'm not trying to sound self-important or make it about me or anything, but it was just like over the course of my life in the arts, I really feel like we as the entertainment or the artistic world have been on the forefront of defining and redefining how the country sees us. Yeah. I think that's fair to say.
And helping them to see us in the right way, you know. Well, as you say, you've straddled both worlds. You've been part of the cultural explosion here, but you've also been an ambassador, you know, outside Newfoundland. Why has that been so important to you? And what's it been like seeing our culture, our people, through the eyes of other people that you've introduced us to? Right?
Well, you know what? I never, and Bob and Sean and Daryl and all the Great Big Sea guys always said the same thing. We never set out to do that. That was never our intention. We always wanted to be rock stars, you know, and along the way, just by the nature of the fact that the band grew so big so quickly that we ended up speaking for the province, even though nobody here asked us to, but we did it anyway, because, you know, and
it resonated.
And it resonated, yeah. And I really believe that between like ourselves and Rick Mercer and Mark and all the gang and the, you know, Alan and all the gang on Republic of Doyle, and that there was a decade or two where we turned the ship around a little bit and how this place went from being a joke book to the most sought after tourist destination in the country.
Well, you didn't want them to miss out on the chance to be dancing the St. John's Waltz, right?
Why would you? Why would you?
And all the other delights. So is that why you chose the St. John's Waltz for your song on the album? We're going to hear it now in a second, yeah.
Oh, I was going to pick one of five, and I kind of let the list roll on, and no one had picked this one yet. And it's one of my faves, and I knew that there would be a whole bunch of various types of music on the record. I knew that people would do rock and roll stuff, and people would do country stuff, and people would do poppy stuff, and that's great. But I really thought it would serve the greater landscape, if you will, of the record to have something really traditional sounding on it. Because, globally or nationally, people think Newfoundland music, well, accordions and fiddles and the like. I thought, like, if I joined up with the Dards, with Tom and Matthew and Amelia and all the gang, that we could do a really cool, very, traditional Newfoundland sounding version of St. John's Waltz. And there really kind of wasn't one, because the best recording of Ron's is kind of country sounding of this one. And it's just like, so it seemed like a good fit.
St. John's Waltz, Alan Doyle and the Dardanelles.
Oh, the harbor lights are gleaming, and the evening still and dark, and the seagulls are all dreaming seagull dreams on Amherst Rock, and the mist is slowly drifting as the storefront lights grow dim, and the moon is gently lifting as the last ship is coming in. All the sailors got a story, some are true and some are false, but they're always wrecked, and they're up on the deck, and they're dancing the St. John's Waltz. Well, we've had our share of history, we've seen nations come and go, we've seen battles raged over land and stage for 100 years or more, for glory or for freedom, all for country or for king, for money or fame. Well, there are no names on the graves where men lie sleeping. All the 9 to 5 survive the day with a sigh and a dose of salt. And they're parking their cars, and they're packing the bars, and they're dancing the St. John's Waltz. Spell the skyway, all the trains run swift and free, leave the wayward free to wander, leave the restless free to roam. If it's rocks in the bay, if it's old cliche, you'll find your way back home. But don't question or inquire what's been gained or what's been lost. In a world of romance, don't miss out on the chance to be dancing the St. John's Waltz. In a world of romance, don't miss out on the chance to be dancing the St. John's Waltz.
And that was Alan Doyle doing the St. John's Waltz with the Dardanelles, one of 20 of Ron Hynes' new songs on an album honoring him called Sonny Don't Go Away. Well, Alan, you've been steeped in this place for more than 50 years now.
Soaking in it.
It's music, history, people, culture. In your quiet moments, away from the madding crowd, and away from the audiences, does this place ever tap you on the shoulder and tell you something you never thought of before.
Always and constantly. I had a chance to go around Newfoundland on a boat for the first time, 3 or 4 years, just before the pandemic. Adventure Canada boat that like circumnavigates. And it was a very unique perspective because I got to go a couple of places I'd never been, like down on the south coast and Franceway and a few places like that. And up in the Little Bay Islands and a few others. And coming into the harbour towns of Newfoundland, like I've been to a lot of them, but I never really came in, sailing into St. John's, for example, in a boat. The places like St. Anthony here, so whatever, they all make way more sense, right? Because that's the way they were imagined and discovered, right? And so like just that alone, like for me was like an eye-opening experience that we often, this day and age, we often look at things the wrong way. We often look at, even something as simple as a harbour town as to, we're always kind of coming in the back door, and it's constantly, Newfoundland Labrador is constantly redefining itself. And like, to me, and my experience in it is always evolving and new and different and fun. And it's quite a blessing, really.
Did you ever think as a youngster growing up in Petty Harbour that you'd be, you'd spend your life singing, writing, acting, scoring music, sharing us with the world?
I got to tell you, I planned it when I was about 5. I always wanted to. There's no doubt denying that. Like I always wanted to, and like I kind of assumed, like most people, that I would never get the chance to do it. But I always wanted to, and like even when I was in, I started playing in bands and stuff when I was 15 or 16 with my uncles and stuff in Petty Harbour and did lots of that. But like, I went to school and started to be a teacher, and I assumed that's what I'd be doing, and then Great Big Sea started, and I finally had a chance to really be in a band, right? And and again, like total luck that it happened right at a time. I literally just graduated university. I didn't owe any money or anything because I had a decent job when I was in school. So it was like, all right, let's go on the road. And we made $250 a week each for 3 years or something, and like, and had a ball, and loved it and loved, every second of it. It was hard at times, but it was the best kind of hard. It was hard to get her.
When people think of Alan Doyle, many will picture you on stage in full flight,
Me too.
dancing around with your guitar, jumping up and down, singing and encouraging other people to sing, full on energy. Where does that passion come from?
Oh, same place it always came from for me is just the love of doing that. I saw my uncles doing that when I was a kid out in Petty Harbour, and I just loved it. I was like, there was magic to me. Something comes out of nothing, like there's an empty dance floor where those guys do what they do, and then it's full, and what was quiet a minute ago is now loud, and where there was people sitting, they're now joyously dancing and singing. It's magic, and I loved it. I still love it. I'm lucky to do a whole bunch of things, including the Ron Project, and produce records and score television shows and write a book or a musical or whatever we're doing. But if someone walked in that door right now and said, you got to quit all that and you only get to play, 150 concerts a year for the rest of your life, I'd be like, that's fine. It's still by far my favorite thing in the world to do is get a chance to play with a band in a room or in a festival with a bunch of people who want to be there. Yeah. Still the best thing.
To make music. And that's what keeps you going.
Love it. Yeah.
Well, that was Alan Doyle, Newfoundland's Renaissance man, one of its best-known sons, certainly one of the proudest, and still going strong. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And that's this week's edition of Going Strong. My name is Deborah Collins, inviting you to join us again next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. right here on VOWR.